Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the REDX podcast. I'm your host, Haley Johnson, and we're excited for another episode. Today, we have Jack Bosch with us. I hope I said that correctly. Hi, Jack. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. And yes, you said that perfectly. I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, everyone, we want to say that this is a participatory event. We want you to chat in and we can answer all of your questions. But today we are talking about real estate investment and flipping land, correct?
That is correct. Flipping land.
Awesome.
Yes, it's a different niche, but it's really fun.
I love it. So we were talking a little bit pre-show about it. I've never heard of it. I'm not very, I guess flipping land isn't something that I knew about prior to this conversation with you, Jack, but I'm excited to dive more into it. We've got Amanda and Pat and a few other people joining with us right now. Thank you guys for coming back to every show and listening. We're so excited for today. So let's get into it, Jack. Why don't we start off with a little bit of an introduction, who you are, what does our audience need to know about you?
All right. So again, my name is Jack Bosch. I'm actually, as you can tell from my accent, I'm originally not from here. I'm from Germany. So I came over from Germany over 20 years ago and to basically finish my college degree. I got a master's here, and 3 weeks into it, met my wife, who is from another third country, Honduras, and she was getting a degree here, and we fell in love with each other and decided to stay in the country. Got work visas, got started getting jobs, and now we're married almost 20 years and have a beautiful, smart, wonderful 12-year-old daughter, and we are just. We soon realized, so we went this traditional process of like getting a job, getting married, buying your first house, buying a couple of cars, things like that. And about 3 years into this, we found ourselves in more debt than ever before. We found ourselves in really deeply unhappy, not in our marriage, very happy in our marriage, and to this day, very happy, but deeply unhappy about our jobs. And my job was 100% travel. Hers included a lot of weekend work and things like that. And so we were separate all week long and just spent like 48 hours together, and then I was gone again. And that drove us to look into another way of making money. Now, with that comes we were on work visas, and I don't know if you know how they work, but if your work visa, literally in your passport, the visa is stamped, and it says that which company your work visa is tied to. So if you lose your job, your visa expires. If you quit your job, your visa expires. So I couldn't leave that job. I had to stick with that job all the way to get the green card, the permanent residency. And that was still years to go. And the way we looked at it, probably ended up taking another 2.5 years from that point. So we figured out we got to do something different. We got to figure out something out. So we started on the side looking into other income opportunities. And long story short, we found real estate, looked at all kinds of real estate, tried to rehab houses, luckily didn't do that, tried to buy tax liens and didn't make any money, tried to buy properties at tax deed auctions, were outbid, like fell forward and just basically failed left and right. And then we stumbled upon a method that nobody was teaching, but we stumbled into that we found a piece of land that we could buy for $400, and it was an acre lot in a small community, a small town, in a rural but small town, and we literally sold it the same day to the neighbor for $4,000, and we made like 10 times our money. And we're like, hey, that was more than I just made in my job the entire month.
Right.
And then 2 weeks later, we found another deal for $500 and ended up selling that for $10,000. We're just like, we like this. And the additional pieces, then we realized that and then we kept going, and soon enough we realized wouldn't even touch houses for a while, and we just started doing land deals because they're simpler. It's the same as house flipping, just without the hassles of a house involved.
So I have a question. If this land is $400 or $500, like you said, how could you sell it the next day for so much more money? Is it just because you marketed it better, or what happened there?
In this particular case, it was a neighbor. So I wanted I actually drove up there, put a sign for sale by owner. I actually had paid it. I had paid the $400. We went to title plus closing costs, so it was like $1,000. But right there, we owned the property. I drove up there. I put a sign on the property, and the neighbor literally across the street comes over and says, like, "What are you doing?" And it's like, "Well, I'm selling the property." And he's like, "Oh, darn! I always wanted to own that property." And he's like, "Oh, great!" Actually, he said, "Great! I always wanted to own that property." Now, here's the thing. He always wanted to own it, but I contacted the seller. The seller was willing to sell his property years ago. Just nobody thinks about contacting people who own some land directly. So we contacted them directly and got the property for $400 because he has just gotten through a divorce. He just didn't want to deal with anything anymore. He moved to a different state and he wanted to kind of leave a clean slate behind him. It's just like, I don't care. I know this property's worth $8,000. He literally told me, I know this property's worth probably like $6,000 to $8,000. I don't care. You can have it. And it was like, great, I'll take it. And then I put the sign on there. The neighbor comes across, and the neighbor wanted to buy it, and he offered me $4,000 right there in the spot. I didn't even know what to say. I didn't even think about negotiating. I probably could have gotten him to $6,000, but I was like, yes, sure, I'll accept it, right? So
amazing.
And he paid the closing cost on his side, so we had no extra closing costs. So we basically turned like $1,000 into $4,000, which was still great. The $3,000 profit was still more than I was making my job.
Right, and just like that, in a day, almost, right?
That's now today though, we sell. You sell. Typically, and now we teach this to our students. We sell typically, if I want to kind of think about them and us. We sell about a good 25 to 30% of our properties directly to the neighbor. That's actually not uncommon. Oh. But the other 70% indeed do sell because there's a difference between selling houses and selling land. The way you go about it is different. And most realtors are trained to sell houses. They're not trained to sell land. So over time, what we developed is a process and actually what we call the perfect listing that looks very, very different than what most most realtors do when they get a piece of land listed. Because when you list a house, most realtors, and I have a real estate license too, so most house realtors, and I call them house realtors because their specialty is selling houses, right? Most realtors specializing in house sales, they get a photographer in. If it's an upscale house, they stage the house. They get really pretty pictures done there. They put it on the MLS, which then syndicates it to Zillow and all these other places. And then they do an open house and things like that. Well, almost all of these things don't apply to land sales, right? You can't stage a piece of land. Right? You can't put furniture on there. You can't. The photographer will help if you get a really good photographer that takes the picture. But if the property is just a bunch of trees, like it's half an acre that's wooded, even the best photographer is not going to make that look amazing, right? So what you need to do when you sell a piece of land is you got a dream build. You're actually selling not what the land is, but what you can do with it. And that's a difference that most normal realtors don't understand. So as a result, what happens is we buy properties from people who actually had it with a realtor. And the realtor, what they typically do, they take an aerial picture of Google, and then they say like, hey, this property's for sale. They put it on the MLS that syndicates it over to Zillow, and it syndicates it with one picture and a two-liner, and it just doesn't look attractive. Now, right next to them is my listing. My listing has 15 pictures. My listing has a nice description where I identified where's my target buyer for this property. That's a future retiree, somebody that wants it. The property is 45 minutes outside of a big city in a smaller community. Somebody wants to retire there. I'm going to tell them that what are they interested about? They want to know if there's a doctor in the area, if there's groceries in the area, if they can go, if there's a Starbucks in the area, if there's dining in the area. They want to know what's the outdoors stuff they can do. Can they go hiking, biking? Can it go, what's the crime rate, right? Things like that. And I tell them those things in my listing, in my pictures. I show them the houses around, and I create a beautiful listing, and they jump on the property like that because I answer the questions that they haven't even asked yet.
Right. And for me, I'm looking to buy a house here in the next 6 months to a year. And whenever I see like plots or lands, it's just a picture of the plot and then nothing and the price. And so it's like, oh, okay, cool. But what I like what you said is you're selling a dream, like what it can become. And it sounds a lot easier than selling a house, right? Where you have to go and you have to stage it and make it look beautiful and put it on the MLS. Like you said, it seems like it's a lot easier.
It is easier, particularly because you do all of that from home. Like,
yeah,
we have flipped over 4,000 pieces of land, and for the last 12 years, I have not seen a single one of them. Because this is where I operate from. This is my home office here. We just repainted. I need to put some more pictures and stuff back up here, but it's a little bland. But we do this from here. So this is the perfect COVID business too, from that point of view, because totally. Like we contact our sellers by actually using direct mail. They call us back, or actually we have a call center, the 404 that we have a contract with, that they pick up the phone. Then they put it into a software that we've developed. They put the information in. Then we take the information, we go on our computer, we could look at what is this property worth, which you can do on Zillow, and if you have access to the MLS anyway. But if you do this across the country, you still might not, even if you have a real estate license, you still might not have access to that MLS. So we use Zillow and Redfin and those kind of properties to see, those kind of websites to see what the property is worth. So we go in, we see like we have an acre property outside of the city. Oh, there's 5 other 1 acre properties in the vicinity that sold for $35,000. Great, the property's worth $35,000. Then we go make them an offer. We make the offer in writing. The U.S. Postal Service brings it there. They accept the offer and sign it, send it back to us. We now go take that property, now that it's under contract, we use Google Earth, Google Maps, the county website, things like that, create a beautiful little listing for it, put that listing on Zillow, on Facebook, on different platforms that are mostly free. And now the phone rings and the buyers are like, hey, I'm interested in this property. It's like, great. Have you visited already? Yeah, I went out there last weekend. I want to buy it. It's like, great. Do you want me to send you a contract? Sure. So we send them a contract using DocuSign or just by email. They sign it. We send it to the title company. Title company finalizes the close, and we just made $10,000 or $20,000. I mean, it's a beautiful process. That, as much as I love houses, because we have almost 400 houses and apartments and things like that, it's a much simpler process to a profit. There's still work involved, obviously, setting up these structures and doing these things. There's always work involved, but it's a much simpler process because I don't have to meet anyone at the property. Like even any house that you want to buy and sell, or even if you list it, you still want to go see the house. You still want to go, and potentially as a realtor, you got to advise your seller to make some repairs to the house ahead of time, right? You might have to help coordinate that if the seller is not available. All of that falls away because we don't touch these properties. We buy them cheap for 5 to 25 cents on the dollar, and we put them on a contract. Even we don't even buy them, put them on a contract, and we go flip them with a process that I basically just laid out, and somebody buys them at the higher price, either for cash or even better, we love offering seller financing.
Okay.
Because when you do seller financing, you can actually make land cash flow, which most people think like, what? What did he just say? Did he make land cash flow?
Explain that.
So I'm sorry. I'm excited about this stuff.
This is great.
But so seller financing works such. So let's say there's a $35,000 lot, whatever it is, a small infill lot in the outskirts of town, or a more rural mini ranch or so. Say it's $35,000.
Okay.
You put this thing on a contract for $3,500, right? Because you're dealing with the seller, just like the seller that was willing to give it to me for $400. Mm-hmm. So now what you do is you have two choices. You can put it on the market for $20,000, which is obviously a substantial discount. Somebody buys it. After closing costs, you made $15,000, right? Good day in everyone's book. Second option, you can take this property and market it right at top market value and sell it with seller financing. Hey, all I'm looking for is a $5,000 down payment, which is only about 13%, $5,000 down payment, or 14%, $5,000 down payment, and monthly payments of $400 for the next 10 years, right? With a whatever 8, 10, 12% interest rate. So what somebody does when they do that, they pay you $5,000 down, but you only paid $3,500 for the property. So in this case, what you getting more as a down payment than you actually paid for the property. And so you have no money in the deal. Even considering closing costs, you have no money in the deal, because closing costs in this lower end deals only up by like $1,000, $1,500. So you have no money in the deal, and now you get $400 a month for the next 10 years as pure cash flow. That paid my car payment when we did that the first time. The second deal we did with seller financing paid for my electricity bill and gas bill and those kind of things. The third one we did paid for our insurance, right? 3 more paid for my mortgage. Like, we did like 10 of these deals, and all of a sudden everything our fixed cost was paid. Right? Wow. Now we're starting to look like, and at around that time, my green card arrived. And I was like, oh, okay, great. So now I actually don't need this job anymore. I can leave and still be fine here in the country. And now, by the way, we're citizens. Both my wife and I are citizens of the United States. But we were at that point when we got that green card, we were in a position that we could quit our jobs because we had built like $5,000 a month in cash flow. We had paid off our debt, and we have built our thing. But cash flow from land is a beautiful thing, because you can do it pretty much, if you do it right, you do it such that your down payment is actually higher than what you get for the property. And if you really do it right, you would even do it such that you do what's called a double closing. And a double closing is a closing where you have a contract with your seller and a contract with your buyer. So you have a contract to purchase the property for $3,500 here. You sent that to title. Title starts working on it. We always work through title company, right? All above board. Then you find your buyer. Your buyer is willing to give you $5,000 down. You have that contract. You also send it to the title company. So now what the title company does, they go process the purchase and the sale on the same day and allow you to use the buyer's money to fund everything. So the buyer sends in the $5,000. Perhaps you negotiate with them that they pay an extra $1,000 in closing costs. So they send in $6,000. And from the $6,000, you pay $3,500 to the seller, and $2,500 goes to the title company for the for the closing costs. Mm-hmm. Means you got nothing, but you just bought and sold the property. Not just that you got nothing, you had to spend nothing. With no money out of your pocket, you just bought a property and you just sold it. And now starting next month, you start getting $400 a month for the next 10 years. That's the beauty of it. So if you're done right, you can do these deals cash or cash flow without using money out of your own pocket.
That is amazing, because I think one of the first questions that would come out of someone's mouth is, how much money is this going to take in the beginning? And for you, it was $400, right? Or however much your first property was. But you closed the deal the same day, right? And got however much, like $4,000.
In this case, I actually had paid for it already, and then I went there. So I didn't know that these double closings even existed when I started this. So we started buying these properties, paying for them, and then marketing them. And a lot of our students do that too. But probably 95% of our students do the deal the way that I just explained. That they don't use none of their money. They put a property under contract for $61,000, sell it for $105,000. And now there's a $44,000 difference, and that's the difference that they get. And they use the buyer's money. The buyer wires in 105 of that 61 goes to the seller, 1,000 or so, 2,000 to the title company, and the $42,000 different goes to them, and they made $42,000 without using any of their own money. This works in any scale, in any kind of thing, and probably 95% of our students do deals that way without using any of their own money. Or you use an assignment. You assigned a contract to the buyer, and they pay you a fee for that. Like, there's lots of ways to do this without using money, and we have done tons of those too.
So, Jack, this sounds like a pretty good deal to me. I'm thinking I need to go and flip land, but why don't people do this? Why don't more people know about this?
So land, people have been kind of brainwashed. They're watching flip and flop Vegas and flip and flop whatever now, and then some of these guys are my friends. The guy from Flip and Flop, Flip or Flop Atlanta, Ken Corsini, is a good friend of mine. And anyway, but these people are attracted to what's sexy. And taking a rotten house and making it look gorgeous is sexy, but it's also highly a lot of work and a lot of risk. There's truly risk involved, because what they always show you in these things, that they open something and all of a sudden there's like mold, or they have to replace way more than they have to replace, and things like that.
Yeah.
And but people don't see that. They see only like, oh my God, they bought this for $200,000. They sold it for $400,000. They put in 100. They made $100,000, and they're all excited about that. Well, land flipping is really house flipping without houses. But the thing is that comes with land flipping, that first of all, there's no TV show about it. So, because I mean, what is there to see? We put something on a contract, we market it, we sell it, we do it from a comfort of our home. The TV channels, I don't think, would be interested in that. There's no drama, there's no ceilings caving in, there's no kitchen sparkling or things like that. The other thing is that we have been screaming it off the rooftops, but it just overall, it seems like people are attracted to that kind of stuff, to the house flipping and so on, for the reasons that I mentioned. However, land flipping is even more attractive, and it works so well because the owners are in many cases sick and tired of paying property taxes. That actually also have given land a little bit of a bad rap, because the gurus out there, what they're telling people is, don't invest in land because land doesn't cash flow. Well, that is true if you want to hold on to land for the long term and do nothing with it. But we're not holding on to it for the long term. We're putting it on a contract, which means the owner still owns it. We have a contract on it. So we're not responsible for the property taxes. And then we go flip it the next day after we buy it, or the same day that we buy it. And then somebody else owns it, and that somebody else owns it because they want to build a house on it. Great, they build a house on it. Because they want to use it for the weekends, to go out to have fun. They want to use it to put an RV on there. They want to use it to put a mobile home on there. It is my choice. It's my guess what they want to do it. But the point is, we don't suffer under the negatives of land because we don't hold on to land long term. So really, the world doesn't think it through. People don't think it through. They think land is bad because if you sit on it, it sucks up property taxes every single year. And that is true, but that's not what we're doing. We're flipping it, right? Our preferred holding time is 0, right? Our preferred holding time is like a moment, 5 minutes or so. So as a result, and as on the contrary, by selling it with seller financing, we actually can make land. Cash flow. So we actually have figured out the way to get cash flow from land and flip it quickly, make the same or better profits than the house flippers, just without any of the hassles of the houses. So there's no mold, there's no repairs, there's no foundation issues, no roof issues, no tenants, toilets, and termites, none of these different things. So it's just that it's just not like, I remember driving from Phoenix, Arizona to Vegas a few times before I started this business. I would drive to the desert, and there's a town called Kingman, Arizona. There's a lot of retirees retire there, and it's like it's low cost living, and you only have an hour away from the Colorado River on boating and casinos and stuff like that. There's a hospital and a golf course there, so it's a nice community to retire on. But it's just like desert. It's desert, as deserty as it gets in Arizona. There's only like some tumbleweed and stuff around. So you drive there, and all you see is brown desert. The first few times I drove there, I always thought like, man, who in the hell wants to live here? Once I understood this business, the next time I drove there, it's like, oh, look at all this opportunity. Look at all this, there's millions of dollars of profit to be made here, because people do want to retire. We live in an environment in the world today where most retirees have not saved enough for retirement. So most retirees cannot retire in their $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 home that they live in their when they're still 50s or early 60s. They got to sell that thing. So they're selling it, passing it out to the younger generation. And if they had such a house, they're probably fine. But a lot of them were renters. A lot of them owned perhaps a little condo or something like that, or rented all their life. They have no savings. They got to retire into places where it's inexpensive. So we go to those places where it's inexpensive. We buy the properties from somebody who no longer wants it and offer them to somebody who wants to retire there, and we make a dream come true for them by offering it with seller financing. So it's a service to humanity. It's a deal that works because realtors don't offer seller financing, right? But we do, and as a result, people can get into the retirement land. But as I said, why does nobody know about it? I mean, we've been screaming it from the rooftops, and people are just trained to look a different way. It's not. They know about fix and flip. They know about buy and hold and rent. They know about a land development, if anything. They consider that expensive and thing, and it is probably. They know about private lending. They know about, I don't know, something like that. But none of there is mentioned land flipping. So land flipping is well and alive. We have hundreds of students doing this in the 3,000 counties of the United States. There's still no competition for this. And they're doing amazingly well, but it's just not well known.
Wow, amazing. I like how you mentioned the mindset shift that you had. You saw a plot of land and you're like, oh, that's terrible. And then you saw it again after you got into the business and you're like, look at all this opportunity. So I love that mindset shift. And I also love that you said that this is a service to humanity, which is so cool. And it makes it feel good. And I'm sure, that's awesome.
And it is. It is, because there's so many people. I mean, we have thank you letters from buyers that basically says like, hey, I look around and I see I want to buy this kind of lot, but it's $35,000. I don't have $35,000. But because you guys allowed me to put a down payment and monthly payments on there, then because no bank lends on land. Banks don't like to lend on land, particularly if it's outside of the city. So there's no market for somebody to go and get a bank loan on these properties if they don't have the cash. So by us selling it with seller financing, they jump on it. And the side benefit is, let's say you charge a 10% interest rate on that. If you would have sold that thing for cash, I would have bought it for $3,500, sold it for $20,000, made $15,000. By selling it for $35,000 with a $5,000 down payment and a $30,000 loan, the interest alone is probably going to be another $30,000.
Right.
So now, instead of making $15,000, I end up making something like $60,000 on deal over the next 10 years. And so it's financially even way more profitable. You become the bank literally when doing that. And that's a beautiful, beautiful concept.
I love it. And so we talked a little bit pre-show about this as well. And when we get questions about real estate investing, right, which I kind of want to shift gears to, is people are like, how do I start investing in properties when I don't have any money to invest in properties? And you said that that's how you started. You started with land flipping, and that is what got you the cash in order to start investing in properties, right?
That's right. So we used our land flipping as what we call our cash machine to get us out of debt, to build up cash, to invest in our education and things like that. We used it to build it up. And then every time we have a certain amount of money, we go invest that money into other asset classes. And we were able to build up a portfolio of almost 400 rental properties with that. Some of them are apartment complexes, some of them are single families and so on. But it's exactly right. So in order to build wealth, flipping properties, as fun as it is, at the end of the day, you flip, you make $15,000. You spent that $15,000 over the next, whatever it is, few months or so, you got to do another flip. But if you use that and you pile it up, because you do deal after deal after deal, you pile it up, then you roll it over. Now the cash flow starts paying for your income. And if you ever want to then stop flipping, you can, because your retirement is taken care of forever on this side here. And that's exactly what we built. We started realizing that this is the ultimate tool for wealth building. By flipping land, we can create the cash that we need to build true, long-lasting, everlasting wealth, as we call it. Forever Cash, we call it. It's actually the name of my podcast. I have a podcast called Forever Cash, Life Real Estate Investing.
I like it. So the land flipping is kind of the short term, right now cash, and then investing in properties is the long term, right? You get,
yeah. We call it one-time cash, temporary cash, and forever cash. So flipping for cash, one-time cash. Flipping for seller financing is temporary cash because it lasts for 3 to 15 years, but it ends. And forever cash is cash that will never end.
That's awesome. So then let's get into the investment property questions that our customers have asked us in the survey that we sent out. So we already answered the question of where does someone begin and what if they don't have any money to start with? Because those were probably the two biggest questions we got from our customers.
Yeah.
So we answered that, which is awesome. So from Sonia, she asked, what type of investments would you get started with?
Well, I mean, I would start with land flipping. I mean, obviously that's the thing, because there's nothing out there that, I mean, imagine getting a deal on a contract when we have gotten deals on a contract for $52. Mm-hmm. And then now those are not the ones you make $50,000, of course, right? Those are the ones you go sell for $3,000. But still, $52 to $3,000, I'll take that every day of the week, right? So you start with something that you can get into with the least amount of tentacles, and I mean like with red tape, with different things, and that's why I like land over houses, because we own houses. Like there's not a week that passes now that we don't have to replace an air condition or a heater, where we don't have like a $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 expense on some of our rental properties that we have, right? But with land flipping, that doesn't happen, right? You put it on a contract for 10, 20 cents on the dollar, go flip it to somebody else, you do a double closing, you need no money. That's how you start making money.
Right. And so for your rental properties, how did you start? Like, where did you look for rental properties?
Okay, for rental properties, yeah, I get it. So for rental properties, sorry, I misunderstood a little bit. For rental properties, what we've done is, so here's our situation, and perhaps that's the listener situation too. I'm from another country. I don't know how houses in the US are being built, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know what this stuff is all called around me. This is a wall, and this is a ceiling, this is a ceiling fan, and this is a window. That's about as much as I know, right? Because I'm not a house guy. So when we started buying houses, we started buying houses in our own backyard, and we started managing them ourselves. It was a mistake, but it was also a positive thing. Because by managing it ourselves, we had to learn those things. We had to learn how you clean a carpet, how much it costs to clean a carpet, how much it costs to repair a kitchen, how much it costs to repair a bathroom, because we had no idea. That's what brought us to land, because in land you don't have to know those things, right? So, but then we started running properties, and after a while we realized we were better off handing them off to a property management company. So now since then, the financial performance of these houses have gone way up. We've done better. But then also what we realized is after a while, so we started in the market, and also at the time, we started buying our houses in 2009 when the market was obviously rock bottom. Now the market is not rock bottom. So what you want to do is, if you want to buy rental houses, you probably want to go look for a market where you can still buy houses that actually have positive cash flow. San Francisco is not one of those cities. Right? Phoenix, Arizona is almost not one of those cities right now. Yes, rents are up too, but prices of houses are up there too. So we bought our houses. I live in Phoenix. We bought houses in Phoenix that we could buy at $50,000, $40,000, $50,000. Well, you know what? Cleveland, Ohio still has houses for $50,000 that rent for $900 a month. So you go to a market that you can find houses at a price point that makes sense, in a quality that makes sense. And what we like to invest in is the first suburb out, because we don't like to be in the war zone. We don't like to be in the inner cities. We don't like to be in those kind of areas where there's that higher crime rates and things like that. So we go one suburb out, and we went, and the same in Phoenix, and we bought a bunch of houses there that we have like 40 or 50 houses in that area, in those kind of markets. But we started close because we wanted to observe the process. And once we were comfortable with the process, we were like, okay, we don't need to do this in our market anymore. Let's go buy in Cleveland. Let's go buy in Omaha, Nebraska. Let's go buy somewhere else. And after graduating from that, we then realized, well, if we can have 40 houses that we never see, and we can measure them just by the financial performance, by working with a property management company, we can also invest in larger deals. And that's when we made the transition to investing in multifamily apartment complexes. So we have 3 apartment complexes with 90, 94, and 146 units each. And those are run by professional property management companies. But we went to it's a 3-part step that we went to. Step 1, learn what it takes to manage 1 or 2 houses, right? because your downside is limited. If something breaks, you're not losing $1 million. You're losing $3,000 on a new heater that needs to be installed or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then learn what you learn the tricks of the trade, then outsource it, learn to manage the manager. And once you learn to manage the manager, you can go out nationwide anywhere else, because then it's all the same.
Okay, so I'm hearing step 1, learn. Step 2, outsource. Step 3, expand.
Right.
Does that sound about right?
That sounds right. And that's about everything we do now. It's exactly the same thing. When we go learn something, we hire the best coach, the best teacher we can find to teach us the ins and outs. Because what we also learned, it's having a coach is important, not just to teach you what to do, but also to prevent you from making extremely expensive mistakes.
Right.
And ask me how I know.
So actually, that is a question we got from someone. They said, what would you do differently if you had to start all over again? What kind of mistakes did you make in the beginning?
I would jump into land flipping even faster. I mean, it took us 2 years to figure it out and stumble upon it. Once we figured it out, we put the pedal to the metal pretty quickly. So I wouldn't change anything there. If anything, I would change that after thinking I know everything already in real estate. Last year, we got into a multifamily deal that fell apart before purchasing, and we lost $125,000 on that deal. So that wasn't a positive thing. And the reason why we lost that money is because we thought we were smarter than we are, right? I just skipped a little step, and I should have not done that. So this year we are smarter. We've gotten we're working now in a mastermind. Again, it's kind of like a coaching program, but it's a mastermind of experienced multifamily operators that share documents and share steps and share checklists and everything. So we're using all their stuff to make sure that never happens to us. We're good in operating apartment complexes, but in that step we made a mistake. So had I had a coach on that, I would have avoided $125,000 lesson.
That's something that I think we tell agents all the time, and why we have this podcast in the first place is to help new agents or whatever niche they want to be in, is to kind of, skip the learning curve, if you will.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So that they don't have to make all of the mistakes that everyone else has. They find someone that has been through it, knows what they're doing, and can help them avoid those roadblocks, per se,
100%.
right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So we just got a question in from Amanda Smith. She's a regular here. She just asked, what specific advice would you give an agent wanting to include multifamily complexes in their investment portfolio?
In their own investment portfolio, you're at the source. Amanda, you have a license already. You're with a brokerage. The only thing I would do is, I find that multifamily apartment business deals is a relationship game. Of course, everything is, at the end of the day, you add all the technology in you want to add in, the world is still a relationship game, right?
Yeah.
So you just meet each other now more through Zoom and things like that. But there's two things that set you apart when you in the apartment game. Number one is knowing the brokers that have the deals, and number two, not just knowing them, but following up every freaking week or so with them, or every 2 weeks with them, right? Because they get hit. Everyone, there's an entire industry out there of coaches teaching apartment complex investing, and it's highly complicated and highly expensive and all this kind of stuff. But when they come off, they call 5 brokers, and then they never call them back. Those brokers are used to apartment college newbies calling them all the time, but then they don't follow up. Right? And the deal in every kind of business, the deal is always in the follow-up. So if you call that broker again and again, hey, Mike, let's say the broker's name is not, hey, Mike, this is Amanda. We talked last week about any deals. Anything popped up? He's like, no, nothing popped up. Okay, by the way, how are the kids? Okay, they're good, right? Good. So then a week later, 10 days later, hey, Mike, just wanted to check in. I'm really serious. I need an apartment complex. So if something comes across your desk, let me know, right? Because what happens is multifamily apartment brokers are working with repeat buyers and repeat sellers. So they have a relationship with somebody who has 8 apartment apartment complexes. Well, they're ready to sell one this time, and they might be ready to sell another one 3 months from now, and another one a year from now. So if you know those guys, they have constantly deal flow coming on through their table, and sometimes it's one day that makes a difference, because you can get on that deal and it's a smoking deal. If it's a smoking deal, it will never hit the LoopNet anyway. That's where deals go to die. It'll never hit CoStar. It never hit any of these platforms. It comes to the broker. The broker calls his five favorite buyers, and the deal is gone. So you need to become one of those five favorite buyers of that broker, and you get that deal presented. Now, you get it presented once, and if you drag your feet, you might get a second chance. And if you again drag your feet, you drop off of the top five because apparently you're not acting. So you be ready to act when they call upon you, when they have the deal that fits your criteria, and have criteria. It's the other thing. Have criteria, have firm criteria, what you're looking for. And if they know that's criteria, and then be in front of them, they'll send you deals at that time. Like every time I reach out to 3-4 brokers, they're like, oh, yeah, thanks. Great, let me see. I just got something in. Let me send it to you. And then I look at it that same day, and I give them feedback, because I want them to know that I looked at it. Even if it's not the perfect deal for us, I want them to know that I actually looked at it, so that they know, okay, it wasn't just a wasted effort to send them the details here. They actually looked at it.
That is awesome. So knowing the brokers and following up, it's all about relationships and having firm criteria, like you said. I think that was perfect. Amanda, I hope you wrote notes, because I'm writing notes and I'm not an agent, which is awesome. Okay, and then we have another question, and we're almost out of time. So if anybody has any last questions, they can pop into the chats here and we'll get that answered. But this kind of goes back to land flipping, this question. And we kind of answered it a little bit with how you market it. But they said, when you find and acquire a plot of land to flip, what do you do to market it?
All right. So first of all, we create that great listing that, depending on what it is, that's like, and then the listing has multiple components. The first component that everyone misses is you right away want to establish value, because if I go and go, even if it's on the other side of town, I don't know the market values of land on the other side of town. Like if somebody says to me, there's a 40-acre parcel, it's $99,000. It's like, is that a good price or is that a bad price? I don't know, right? So the very first thing is we establish value, so that by showing comparables and things like that, so that people know comparable properties are listed at $170,000 to $200,000. That sounds like a bargain. If I'm in the market, you have my attention now. Right? Yeah. What most realtors do, they took an ugly picture on there and they put a 2-liner, this property is available for sale, build your dream house here. And I don't know if that's a good price. I don't even know where it is. I don't know anything, and so on. So, but then what we do is we put that property out there, that listing, and we have a website called Land Profit Fund. If you want to go check it out, there's some more information about what we do. If that's okay for me, share that. It's fun, like having Land Profit Fund.
Awesome.
You can find out more about us there. But then we go. We put it usually on the following platforms. Number one, Zillow, right? Zillow. Number two, the contract with the seller, by the way, gives us the right to market the property. So therefore, we can't put it on Zillow. It's allowed. It's in the contract. Number two, we put it on Craigslist. Right, on Craigslist, it's another place we like to put it. Number three, we put it on Facebook Marketplace.
Okay.
Right, and those are the three big ones. And then in addition, you can put it on different Facebook groups. You can go find real estate groups in that particular area of the country, because with land, you can do this anywhere in the country. It doesn't matter where you live. Some people say, like, Jack, I live in LA. There's no land for $35,000 here. Yes, but why don't you do deals in Arkansas? Right? Nothing prevents you from doing deals there, because you do it all virtually. So we put it on there, and then we monitor them. And if you don't get any traffic, we might take it back off, put it back on, change pictures a little bit, and put it back on. If you get a lot of traffic, you get pinged by people on Facebook then, or on Zillow with inquiries. And then it becomes a conversation about, hey, yes, great, answer their questions, send them to the property, and close the deal. It's a true sales conversation at that point. It's not. It's like, okay, what else? What do you want to do with the property? Well, this was a yes. From what I research, you can do that. Okay, what else do you want to do? Is that great? It's like, how far is it from that? Well, it's short 5-minute drive or 10-minute drive over to the grocery store. Okay, great. Is that what you're looking for? Yes. Well, great. Everything seems to be great. Would you like to buy the property? It's like, yes, I think so. Great. Can I send you a contract? Great. Yes. And you send them a contract, then you got a deal.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, that is great. I have a full page of notes here, which has been awesome. I have learned so much about flipping land that I never knew 45 minutes ago. So thank you so much, Jack.
Thank you.
Just before we sign off here, do you have any final thoughts or advice that you didn't get to share that you want to hear in the last couple minutes?
The only thing I might share is that is what I've shared that a few times before is it's just like, I understand your audience is focused towards realtors. So when you're a realtor, you need to know marketing, right? Marketing is the key piece. Marketing is to get deals. Marketing is to sell deals. Marketing is to understand deals. So marketing is really a key aspect to almost anything that you do today, particularly in the COVID world where you have to do it from home, right? So you really want to focus on marketing. But other than that, the key thing that I always say is like, if you're happy being a realtor, then become the best realtor you can be. If you're not happy being the realtor and you want to get on the investing side of things, then what I recommend is that you look at all the different investing opportunities out there, and then you pick the one that you're drawn to the most, not only from a profit point of view, but also from a what's necessary day to day to do it, and from the complexity point of view. If you're a master real estate expert already, great, multifamily is probably great because it's like about 3.2 million times more complicated than a land deal, right? So if you're up for that, wonderful. If you're a newbie in the realtor world and you just went to real estate school and you had in Arizona, it's 90 hours of real estate education, and you're starting to learn these things and you're realizing, yeah, it's not really what I want to do. I want to get into the investing side. Then pick something that is simple enough for you to wrap your arms around and still be successful with it. So pick something. That's what happened to us. We tried house flipping and we failed. We almost got into a rehab, and thank God we didn't go into it because we would have lost like $30,000, $40,000 on that deal. Luckily, we didn't do it. But when we came across land flipping, with the lack of knowledge of how you fix anything in a house, because coming from another country where everything is named different, not even talk about how to fix it, I didn't even know the names of these things. Like what's that thing underneath the sink? I still don't know. It's plumbing, but what is it called? Like I still don't know because I'm not a plumber. So we knew nothing about real estate, but land flipping we could do, right? So because there's a piece of land and I buy it for 20 cents on the dollar and I sell it for 60 cents on the dollar, that makes sense. I can handle that, right? There's trees and brush and dirt and a road. Great, right? So that's all that matters. So pick something that you can wrap your arms around, because in the process of anything you pick, you will learn, and you will learn so much that soon enough, the other thing that right now looks overwhelming becomes easy.
Wow. So find what works and hold on to it and be the best at it.
Right.
Right. Perfect.
Absolutely.
I think that is beautiful advice to end on. Thank you so much, Jack, for coming on to the REDX podcast to help others learn more about this niche that they might not have known about. And I'm excited to dive more into it as well. We could talk for probably another hour about land flipping and what everything that entails. But so thank you very much to all of our customers listening and our audience. Thank you for tuning in every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to our podcasts. If you want to continue conversations like this one, you can go and join our Facebook group. It's called REDX Elite Prospectors if you want to join that. And also, if you're a customer, you can get on our REDX forum, where there's great conversations happening in there. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast by going to theredx.com/podcasts with an S at the end, and put your email in there, and you can be notified every time we have a podcast. Again, thanks, Jack. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and we will see you guys Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you.